Why is a Keller ISD trustee making misleading claims about a book he wants to ban that simply has a gay character? What does this say to gay kids, and those supportive of them, when he says he himself was personally outraged it existed, and even fabricated details about a book, just to make KISD look bad and encourage a mob to try to remove any books they don't like? At the November 2021 Keller ISD board meeting, multiple citizens advocated banning any books they don't like, despite the fact that a process already exists to review and determine books that would be wholly inappropriate, and any parent can make their own choice on what books their own kids can check out. However, when it came time for each board member to discuss the process, newly elected member Charles Randklev made detailed claims against one of these so-called awful offensive books that he wants to outright ban, despite the fact that it's a beloved book by many students and parents. Let's break down Randklev's own one-minute rant, and get to the real facts about whether this trustee is really fighting against extremist books, or is in fact the extremist who may have troubles acknowledging that it's okay for someone to just say they happen to be gay?
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. We'll start down here with Charles.
So I guess the first thing is, I just want to say, and I speak for myself, both as a dad first, that's why I ran for the school board. I hear you, okay? I hear you. And I had my kid last week brought home one of these books, guys. And, the conversations that I had with her were conversations that I should not have had with a 9-year-old who has special needs.
Randklev is obviously emotional, bordering on angry, and sides with the book banning advocates. He specifically brings up his own daughter bringing home one of those books, and there is no other way to interpret it than his elementary-age daughter found a graphic, sexually explicit book and checked it out from a KISD library, and he had to talk about some awful images or content from this book. Since he brought up his daughter publicly on a policy issue, it's relevant to just mention the relevant fact that she attends Florence Elementary, citing on his website that both his kids attend a KISD school, Florence Elementary. But the point here is clear. Randklev is clearly making a claim that it's KISD's fault, that they supplied a book to an elementary student that had things so vile, it should be banned for all. What was this horrible, vile book?
I got the book, right? Because she thought it looked pretty because there were hearts on it, and because basically it had theater in it.
So, one of those books Randklev wants to ban from all of KISD is drama. He describes the book cover as if it's an attempt to lure elementary kids to its awful graphic content, and has confirmed this is in fact the book in question. I'll get into the book content in a moment, but first, here's some facts that might seem interesting compared to what you've heard out of Randklev's mouth. First, his kid did not bring home one of these books from the Florence library as he implied. How can you know? Because this book was never at Florence. KISD has acknowledged this in a public information request. So Randklev appears to be purposely trying to make the district look bad by going out of his way to side with school book banners with his own origin story involving a vile school book his daughter had access to and checked out on her own at Florence. It simply is a false story. Second, drama isn't even recommended to elementary-aged kids. The author herself recommends it to ages 10 to 14. So before we even get into the content, it's important to keep in mind that even if this book did actually end up in Randklev's daughter's hands, it wasn't from checking it out at Florence. Yet, Randklev complains about the age appropriateness of a book that he would have neglected his own parental responsibility for doing a simple check on whether his daughter should read it, instead of lashing out and wanting to ban it for the audience it was intended for. Third, is drama a fringe book with a twisted agenda, or is it a well-known, popular book that would show the chilling effect of allowing a few people to universally ban a book that is beloved by many? Drama was a #1 New York Times bestseller and received many awards when it was published. This alone suggests Randklev's rant that it was one of those books that creates anger from parents and needs to be universally banned, rather than allow parents to choose for themselves if they want their kids to have access, at an age-appropriate library, not Florence, is chilling even before getting to the content that troubled Randklev. So let's get into the content, and see what so troubled Randklev. When looking at the content that Randklev was disgusted by, it's important to note two things from the outset. First, that taking the most extreme part of a work of art out of context will notably distort the content of the work as a whole. Second, what I will show you that is controversial doesn't even make up 1% of the book's plot, which does not center on LGBTQ issues or any romantic depictions. Out of the dozens of characters in the book, Drama happens to have two secondary characters who, when talking about crushes, this being a teenage book after all, simply admit they don't consider themselves straight. This is the extent of how a student explains who he is when opening up about being gay. Ironically, this character is reluctant to tell some people about the sexual orientation he was born with for fear of repercussions. Little does he know as a character those repercussions are people like Randklev in real life wanting to erase his existence from every student at KISD wanting to read a popular book that doesn't even center on orientation. But this is a graphic novel, so maybe the objection is to a physical representation in the novel? To be fair to anything Randklev could legitimately object to, be forewarned that you are about to see the few panels in the book that show any physical intimacy between middle school characters in a graphic novel meant for middle schoolers. Drama has 5 scenes of kisses. Less than 1% of the book, and nothing more intimate than this shown in picture or text. One of which is a same-sex kiss, and even then it's because of a plot point that results in some chaos that requires the characters they play on stage to have a simple peck. Nothing more. So before we analyze Randklev's last claims during his rant, it's important to weigh the only things he could find so objectionable, in a book his daughter supposedly read, that wasn't even available for a student to check out at her school. Even out of context for a book that doesn't even focus 99% of the time on orientation and kissing, what couldn't he simply explain to his kid to a degree he wants to impose his own issues with parenting on every other parent and student? Was it that he can't simply explain to his kid that gay simply means what the character stated, that he was born to think boys were cuter than girls, or want to kiss one over a girl? If Randklev, who has a PhD and teaches biology, can't even explain that it's a biological fact observed in humans and animals that some are born oriented to being attracted to the same gender, just as some are born oriented to using their left hand or leg as dominant, it actually raises an equally alarming possibility that he made the whole thing up.
So the outrage and the vocalness that I've had on this issue is because it's personal, and it's personal to a lot of people that showed up. These aren't manufactured books that have been planted in the library. These aren't just, whimsical things that have been brought up. The stuff that has been shared with me via email is horrid.
Randklev seems to be doubling down on his claims, possibly even projecting the same tactics he chides others for using. Again, he seems to make this rant about himself, so that he can score points with book banners by creating his very questionable origin story by again saying it's personal. He then bizarrely references some implied conspiracy theory that the book banners were planting obscene books. Ironically, as I have proven, Randklev himself falsely planted the book into his daughter's school library in his story when he claimed she brought home one of these books. And he finishes claiming that anyone making a book challenge is not based on whimsical stuff. Yet this video has shown out of context the only things that could be considered controversial in Drama. That isn't even 1% of the book. It's up to you to judge, but it's also worth asking, what in the world would Randklev and most of the book banners consider whimsical stuff, if what you just saw in Drama should be considered bannable to everyone versus more whimsical for its targeted audience? As a high school student of KISD, I'm tired of our district being in the news. I decided to make this video because I'm disturbed by the people trying to ban books in our libraries that they don't like. I'm also disturbed by people, such as Randklev, who seemingly don't want gay characters to exist, making it hard for KISD students to feel safe and respected. He also blames the hardworking staff at Keller ISD in this meeting for bad books, such as Drama, even though his story is filled with holes, half-truths as best. It's quite unfortunate, as I'd probably be given detention or in school suspension if I applied this same motive to one of my teachers. Lastly, I'm not trying to imply that maybe Randklev is a craven politician who wants to score applause points by making KISD look bad for things they didn't do, punches down against the LGBTQ community, or tries to make himself the center of attention when the camera is around. He appears to be a regular guy that doesn't seek attention. Which is why he of course has 6 people managing his personal KISD trustee page. It brings up the question of who these 6 people are, and potentially could lead to a deeper hidden agenda. As a teenager, I'm not able to vote. Still, I can research and point out the facts when I think a trustee is making up a personal story by blaming librarians and other KISD educators over false claims, and what I can only conclude judging from his speeches and actions as extreme homophobia when you look at his visceral hatred of the book, drama. I have gathered and shown the facts, and I urge all citizens of Keller ISD to make their own determination on whether they can trust Charles Randklev based on his own story and how he uses it to want to ban age-appropriate, award-winning books across all of KISD. Ask questions, verify, and keep our elected officials accountable. Thank you.